Imagine applying for a loan where the lender doesn't ask for a single bank statement. Instead, the application asks for access to your smartphone. An artificial intelligence system examines how regularly you charge your phone. It tracks whether you type steadily or repeatedly delete answers. It maps the network of people in your contact list. Within seconds, the AI produces a credit score. It approves or denies the loan based entirely on how closely your digital behavior matches the patterns of people who usually repay their debts. Your daily habits become your financial identity. For someone excluded from the conventional banking system, this technology offers a lifeline, but it also raises an immediate danger. A system designed to widen financial access could easily turn your private life into a continuous, invasive test of worthiness. The traditional credit system relies on a rigid, circular logic. To build a strong credit history, you have to use credit. But to obtain that initial credit, lenders typically want to see a long history of borrowing, often tied to physical, traditional payroll records and bank accounts. This creates a structural trap. Millions of financially responsible individuals, young adults, recent immigrants, and gig workers operate largely in cash or outside formal banking channels. To the credit bureaus, they look like the completely blank columns on this ledger. They are entirely credit invisible. A person can pay their rent on time for years and carefully manage their household expenses, yet still face automatic rejection for a loan. Artificial intelligence companies see this massive data vacuum as a market opportunity. They are promising to fill it by analyzing alternative data. The most logical first layer of alternative data looks at direct cash flow metrics. This involves feeding an AI model information about recurring obligations, like monthly rent checks and utility bills. Evaluating these payments makes sense. They prove an applicant has a steady cash flow and a consistent habit of meeting their financial obligations. There is a direct causal link between paying your bills and the probability that you will repay a future loan. An informal worker or a newly arrived migrant who has been paying $1,200 in rent every month finally gets recognized for that reliability. The algorithm sees their consistency and prevents an automatic rejection. At this close proximity to actual financial reality, AI credit scoring works exactly as intended. It broadens access to capital fairly and accurately. But AI models are designed to maximize predictive power, which means they crave more variables. The system moves to a second, wider ring of indirect digital proxies. It starts scraping phone models, e-commerce shopping habits, and GPS location data. Here, the connection to financial responsibility fractures. A lender might deny your application simply because you own a low-cost mobile phone. The AI noticed that people with cheaper devices default more often, so it penalizes you for matching that statistical pattern. This introduces a problem known as proxy discrimination. An algorithm can easily reconstruct a borrower's social class and wealth based on indirect features. It doesn't have to explicitly ask for your income or race. It infers those details through your device type and shopping behavior. When this logic is applied geographically, it creates digital redlining. Looking at this historic map, we can see how lenders used to draw physical red lines around specific neighborhoods to restrict services based on class and race. Today, an AI might analyze an applicant's zip code, find a correlation with historical default rates in that area, and automatically downgrade their score. This creates a dangerous feedback loop.
Communities penalized by the algorithm are forced to rely on higher-cost lenders. Those expensive loans cause more financial stress, which leads to more defaults. When you look over at the green first-grade zones on the map, those residents receive affordable credit and thrive. The AI observes this outcome and treats the inequality it helped reinforce as confirmation that its original prediction was right. Proxy data does not measure an individual's actual financial reliability. It simply measures and then punishes historical disadvantage. The pursuit of data eventually pushes scoring into an extreme outer ring, behavioral surveillance. Lenders begin deploying systems that track your keystroke dynamics, measure exactly how long you hesitate before answering a question, and analyze the financial health of the contacts in your social network. Some companies have even explored whether your phone battery level correlates with risk. The model might discover that applicants whose phones are consistently near zero default slightly more often than others. But a statistical correlation is not a reason. A person might have a low battery because their phone is old, they work back-to-back shifts, or lack reliable electricity. None of those realities mean they won't pay back a loan. Because the AI processes thousands of these behavioral variables at once, the lender often cannot explain why an application was denied. The decision becomes an opaque black box, generating a judgment on your character based on random digital behaviors. In this outer ring of surveillance, the applicant is left entirely powerless. You cannot see the pattern the machine found, you cannot understand its reasoning, and you cannot correct the assumption that your typing speed makes you a bad borrower. Credit risk involves evaluating a borrower's financial ability to pay, but behavioral scoring attempts to measure a person's willingness to conform to an algorithm. Even if a behavior statistically correlates with risk, using it to deny basic services crosses a line into social control. This dynamic creates the paradox of the data-rich poor. A wealthy applicant can easily secure a loan with a traditional bank statement, retaining their privacy. Meanwhile, a low-income worker desperately seeking basic financial inclusion is forced into a system demanding total access to their personal data. Without strict limits, this form of inclusion becomes an extractive trade-off. The lender gains extraordinary surveillance power, and the borrower's private life becomes a monetized product. By 2045, this could evolve into a sprawling credit panopticon. Imagine walking down the street knowing your financial access shifts continuously based on daily actions. Changing your location, interacting with an unexpected social contact, or shopping late at night could automatically lower your credit limit when you need it most. Alternatively, we could build a regulated system where artificial intelligence serves the borrower. Instead of sweeping up unrelated behavioral data, a personal AI agent could package verified, highly relevant information, like a 3-year history of on-time rent payments, and use it to negotiate fair loan terms. Securing this second future requires deliberate legal boundaries. We need mandatory data minimization, meaning lenders can only collect what is strictly necessary. We need transparent explainability for every denial, and applicants must retain the absolute right to have their case reviewed by a human being. Creditworthiness should remain an objective measure of your financial capacity. It shouldn't be outsourced to an invisible algorithm deciding if you're the right kind of person.